In today's video, we're going to be diving into the upcoming pattern, taking a big old look at the tropics. We have a couple of concerns. That Gulf one has gone ahead and dissipated as we expected, but there is some other concerns out there. But we also expect a very intense heat wave for the next few days, followed by a very intense cold front, even Arctic blast for this time of year in early August, the first week of August, basically starting on the first and at least lasting a few days, maybe even a week plus. So a big fall like cool down on the way. We mentioned that could bring 70s, even 60s, especially the further north you go. So a very intense cool down and relief from the heat is on the way. So let's go ahead and zoom in and take a look at these tropics. Now, as we kind of look at everything, we can see there's multiple threats in the Eastern Pacific, as we've been predicting. This one over here, furthest east, has a 0% chance of development over the next 2 days, followed by a 40% chance over the next 7 days. So a pretty close to 50-50 shot that we see this one develop. That's been the one strongest indicated by the models pretty much. This middle one has a 10% chance of development over the next 2 days, followed by a 20% chance over the next 7. And then the furthest west one here, which has the highest chance of development, has a 50% chance of development over the next 2 days and a 60% chance over the next 7. Very, very interesting and very active out there in the Eastern Pacific, as we mentioned. Let's go ahead and take a look at the Atlantic, though. We're going to kind of just go through this model run here. We can see that there is a lot of storminess here off of what we call the MDR, which is short for main development region here. So we see a lot of these storms kind of shooting off of Africa into this area. Obviously, they are much further south than what we're used to, and this is definitely going to lead to a less chance of seeing those develop over time. We want to see those further north for development at least. And we do actually see a shoot of it start to move northward out of there. And that's probably the best shot that this pocket of storms has of developing as a northern push. So we see that kind of move in there. And then we see it swirl around in the Eastern Caribbean. Really never gets its act together overall. We do see a couple of areas of interest, like here on the 8th of August, we see this model indicating that there could be some activity off the southeast coast. Of course, that's very far out, so it's hard to say. That's about 12 days out. So, take it with a grain of salt. But we do see numerous areas of storms, or what we call tropical waves, moving off of Africa. And as we move through the month of August, this should become a much more active area, of course. So very interesting stuff. And we're, of course, going to be tracking this with you guys daily through the month of August, but not only that, basically through the fall and hopefully for years to come. So stay tuned with us for these tropical updates. Let's go ahead and move into the modeled guidance over on Weatherbell. Take a look at some of those storms over the lower 48 and also that huge cool down on the way. Now, as we just hop into this model guidance, we're taking a look now at the European model. We can see the moisture that was our kind of tropical area of interest here over now the northwestern Gulf. And we can see this bringing showers and thunderstorms to states like Texas, Louisiana, Arkansas, kind of all over the place. As we keep going towards Sunday on the 27th, we do see a lot more storminess over the Ohio Valley, Mid-Atlantic, Northeast areas. And really outside of that, I mean, we have a couple scattered pockets of precipitation, but really nothing significant outside of this more northeastern corner for tomorrow on Sunday. As we take a look at Monday on the 28th, what we're seeing here is much less activity. Isolated thunderstorms maybe here throughout the Great Lakes, Ohio Valley, lower Mid-Atlantic, upper Southeast kind of corridor there. And again, there's a couple pockets of precipitation here, but that is the more primary one at this point. Tuesday on the 29th, we do see a little bit more activity picking up throughout the Rockies, and that does include these more four corner state areas like New Mexico, Arizona, Colorado, where they're seeing more monsoon type activity. We do see the southeast dealing with a lot of thunderstorms and showers for Tuesday on the 29th, and then scattered to isolated thunderstorms as you head further northward appears to be the look here. Wednesday on the 30th, this cool down is taking shape. We do see this more ridge-like pattern setting up for the west, where warmer air is pushing northward. This forces the cooler air to spill over eastward, and that is moving in. Two things, we obviously expect still thunderstorms to continue for these deep south locations, but this boundary between the heat and the cold where we see this summertime heat from the south and this more unseasonable cold moving in from the north, it creates this squeeze along this line, and it causes those thunderstorms to really take off because of a lift type pattern that takes place in here. As you get that squeeze, it forces the air upward, and that rising air motion really encourages thunderstorm development. So be watching that line as we keep moving forward, because it really does play a really big role here. We can see it by Thursday the 31st, clear as day, where that is located, kind of the boundary between the two air masses. There is precipitation here in the Gulf, although we'll have to see if there's any chance of tropical development. I'm a little doubtful at this point. Friday on August 1st, we can see this boundary layer, if you will, is setting up further and further southward as that cooler air is continuing to move in. Friday on August 1st there. Here's Saturday on August 2nd, and a lot more of your activity is further south over the deep south and southeast here by this point. We also see the Pacific Northwest dealing with some precipitation. Sunday on August 3rd, we kind of continue to see this southeast area staying very active here on this particular model run. Again, this is Sunday the 3rd. Here's Monday the 4th. We get a lot of precipitation there in the southeast, also the northern plains and northern Rockies maybe. Looking towards Tuesday on the 5th, we do see a little bit more activity in the east as a whole. Maybe even a second frontal boundary trying to dip down. We'll have to see if that could even succeed at this point. We'll see if it progresses southward, and it kind of does there into the northeast and mid-Atlantic. So we'll be watching that closely. Towards the end of the model run, activity really just spikes. This is the 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, and we can just see this area seeing kind of continuous activity as systems move across. So very active there to end the model run. Of course, the end of the model run is the least confident, so take it with a grain of salt, but really interesting to say the least here. What we're seeing from these models might mean a lot of storminess, maybe even multiple cooldowns for August. That would be crazy. So we're going to be just continuing to watch this very closely. Looking at the total precipitation, we do see an uptick here for the southeast. We saw one yesterday, but this is a further uptick from what we were even seeing before. Some of the plains, Midwest, Northeast, Rockies are dealing with more precipitation here as well. Still an average to slightly above average amount. So when we look here at the anomalies, we see above average here in the plains and some of the Midwest and Rockies, and then also for this southeast area as well. Obviously, in the total amounts, this area is really seeing a lot more than these north central areas, but they average a lot less here. So this is, of course, compared to your average. So yeah, a lot of above average around in the central and some of the eastern states as well. Here's the past 3 days of temperatures, and we can see we've been pretty well above normal here across the Midwest, Great Lakes, Ohio Valley, Mid-Atlantic, Northeast. Kind of seeing ourselves go through a heat wave once again. There's also been considerably cool temperatures out west. We call that a negative PNA, and this oftentimes encourages heat into the east, so that probably makes a lot of sense as to why we're seeing this. Moving towards the upcoming temperatures, we do see that heat is going to last at least until about the 30th, and that's when we start to see some of this cooler air moving in. By the 31st, I would say the northern half of the central and eastern states are seeing cooler conditions. And then by the 2nd, we really see everybody in the east seeing it. Some of these blue and green locations are 10 degrees or more below normal, which is very significant. Again, some of these northern locations at times could see 70s or even 60s. Areas further to the south look at it more as a relief from the heat, where it's going to be much more just closer to room temperature, but it's still going to be above it. So it's going to be like pretty warm to maybe a little hot compared to very hot, which is your typical weather. That's a good way to look at it if you live further to the south. As we keep going, that really wants to wait around at least until the 5th, 6th, and then we start to see some warmer air working its way in, but this is an ensemble model, so we're taking multiple opinions and putting them together, which oftentimes when you go towards the end of these model runs, you do start to see things get a little wonky. For instance, we have warmer temperatures out west. I think that would encourage a lot more cool air into the east than what this is showing. So time will tell, but this could set up to be a pretty interesting pattern to say the least. With all of that stuff being said, be sure to subscribe. We upload every single day. You can even hit the bell icon for daily notifications when we upload so you never miss one. Be sure to like the video if you did enjoy it. Leave a comment down below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.